I have no guesses. I'm concerned with the traffic. Welcome everybody. It's time to call this meeting to order. This is the last hearing for our 2024 millage rate, and we will have a variance after this hearing. We'll do it just like we did the first two. Our city manager, Mr. Radford, will present the city staff's recommendation, and then once he's done, I'll give city council the opportunity to make comments and to ask questions, and then we'll open up the public hearing like we always do. And then once that's done, we'll close it, and I'll ask if there was a motion, and we'll go from there from a voting standpoint. So, without further ado, I'll just hand it over to Mr. Ratcliffe.
Thank you, Mayor. Most of this will be repetition, those who've been here before, but I think it's important to go for anybody that wasn't here, give a similar presentation. State law requires cities and counties and school districts to advertise a tax increase whenever the previous year's millage rate has generated additional property tax revenues for the city than the previous year. Without this tentative tax increase of 4.41%, in the calculations that are done by the tax assessor, 2024 millage rate would be 3.534 mils. We've published the state required numbers that the city of Sugar Hill has tentatively adopted a 2024 millage rate of 3.69 mils. As point of reference, this is the same millage rate adopted in 2023. The first of the required legal ads was published in the Gwinnett Daily Post on Sunday, September 1st, 2024. It was posted on the city's website on Friday, August 30th. The second legal ad was published in the Gwinnett Daily Post on Sunday, September 8th. Those ads in state law also require cities and counties and school districts to hold 3 public hearings before the governing body adopts the adoption of the 2024 millage rate. The first 2 hearings were held last Monday, September 9th. The hearing tonight is the third and final hearing before the city council takes action to adopt the 2024 millage rate. 3 factors have shaped the city's tax digest in 2024, reassessments of existing properties by the Gwinnett County tax assessor provided a net increase of $74.6 million. The new additions to the digest, such as new construction or significant renovations, is a gross increase of $138.1 million. A substantial increase in exemptions from $29 million to $84.5 million, a net increase of $54.5 million, offset some of the increase in the digest. This is primarily because of the homestead exemptions passed by the voters in 2023. Traditionally, Sugar Hill Digest has been residential as much as 92% single-family homes. The 24 Digest is 75% residential and 25% commercial. Much of this digest balancing is the result of the downtown decenter halo effect. Diversifying digest is homeowner friendly, helping shift the property tax to the industrial and commercial tax base. The city's current tax millage rate of 3.69 mils was rolled back in 2023. Before that action last year, the millage rate had remained at 3.8 mils for 19 consecutive years. The millage rate stability has helped the city navigate disruptions from various uncontrollable events, such as Great Recession, the COVID-19 global pandemic, and subsequent supply chain breakdown, and significant budget weather events that have damaged city assets. But despite these disruptions, the city has been able to keep city service levels consistent and reliable. However, we must continue to be prepared for the next inevitable disruption, such as a slowdown in the economy, major storm events, earthquakes. We've had several of those lately that could affect Beaver Dam, as well as a prolonged recession. The city has received a clean bill of health from our independent auditor for the 11th consecutive year that the management team has been in place. Our growth has slowed to a sustainable and manageable rate from what it was in the 1990s and 2000s. We are an attractive and thriving city of now probably some 28,000 plus people because of a walkable, vibrant, connected downtown, quality parks, recreation, green space, and now greenway. And our commitment to the arts of all types and genre. We have high-performing public schools and expanding housing options. The city's 106 full-time employees and 40 part-time employees come to work every day to make sure we have a better place to live, work, and play. They manage, maintain, and nurture the assets entrusted to them with integrity and professionalism. Because of our attractiveness as a city, service demands will continue to grow as well. As staff, we are committed to keeping service levels high, maintaining the high quality the community has come to expect, and delivering with excellent customer service. So keeping the millage rate at 3.69 mils will have these results for city property taxpayers. For a homesteaded property with an average fair market value of $450,000, the total city property tax payment would be $664.20, or $28.80 more than the rollback rate. However, when the new $10,000 homestead exemption is applied, the total city property tax payment would be $627.30, or $8.82 less than the rollback rate. With the new senior homestead exemption of $20,000 applied to qualified homeowners, the total city property tax would be $590.40, substantially less than the rollback rate. By comparison, a non-homesteaded property with an average fair market value of $425,000, and note that it's non-homesteaded property is $25,000 on average less than homesteaded property, would also result in a property tax payment of $627.30, showing the shift to commercial, industrial, and non-homestead housing properties. As points of reference, we have researched the millage rate actions of other entities Gwinnett to determine what they have adopted. Gwinnett County Schools went from 19.2 to 19.1. Gwinnett County has maintained its 14.35 millage rate, which is the same as last year. Beaufort is at 12.50, the same as last year. Duluth is at 6.551, the same it has had for the last 8 years. Grayson is at 1.985, same since 2022, excuse me. Snellville is at 4, the same since 2022. Previously, they were at 4.55 for 9 consecutive years. Swanee's at 4.93, same rate they've had for the last 12 years. And Lawrenceville is the only city that went up in its millage rate, went from 2.228 mils to 3.26 mils. The increased revenue of $310,000, keeping the millage rate at 3.69 mils rather than the rollback rate, would be offset by several important factors. One is an expected 3.1 to 3.9% increase in the consumer price index, and an increase in compensation for city employees approved in the 2025 budget. For example, a 4% salary adjustment would conservatively valued at $333,000 investment. As a point of reference, here are some penny increases approved or proposed in various governments around Gwinnett. Gwinnett County Schools, 6.92% for teachers, 4.25% for non-teachers. Gwinnett County, 4% for the possible inflation market adjustment. Lawrenceville is at 5% increase. Snellville just completed last year a comp study and adjusted their salary ranges last year. This year they're also including 2.5% adjustment in their budget. And Swanee is at 4% increase for employees. One last point, city property taxes are but one input into a property owner's overall property tax bill. School taxes of $3,617 represents 54.1% of the tax bill. County taxes of $2,439 represent 36.5% of the tax bill. And Sugar Hill taxes represents 9.4% of the property owner's tax bills. So with this as background and context, the management team is recommending that the millage rate in 2024 remain at 3.69 mils. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Redford. Any questions or comments from City Council before I open the public comment? Yes, sir.
Mr. Redford, comparing the cities around us, did I mishear you, or did you say Beaufort property tax is 12.9?
12.5.
Right, I believe that's incorrect. That may be for their school system. I mean, they charge nothing for the city government, their property. I'll try to see it.
That is correct. They do put a property tax in place for the city, and then they roll it back so they can be eligible for local option sales tax from Hall County. The 12.5% is for the school system. The Beaufort operates because it owns its own electric system and its own gas system.
I just want to make sure. We'll just clear it on. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Ms. Edward?
Yes, Mr. Robert, I have a question. When you first started out talking, you mentioned new additions to the digest. And last week, there was a gross increase of 63.4 million, and tonight you mentioned 138.1 million. Could you explain that difference?
I can. The way the consolidation report is designed, they take any new additions to the digest and they also offset it by the exemptions. So I'm reporting the exemptions separate from the increases in the digest that were a result of new development or major renovations.
Thank you, Mr. Ranger. Any other questions or comments? All right, we will move on to the public hearing portion of this hearing. And if there's someone that would like to take advantage of this time to come in, offer an opinion, now you're welcome to do so. Yourself.
Yeah, Schultz, 5350 Woods Road, Georgia. Thank you, Mr. Radford, for your concise breakdown of what we're doing here. I'm still asking for the millage rate to roll back. After just sitting in all that traffic to even get here, should have rode my bike up here, but I guess that's the main plan is Agenda 2030 and having all these people crammed in a small area. My problem is, I'm driving down 20 the other day and I see a new Marshall's truck, 4x4 lifted with monster motors on it and a light bar on the back of it. Didn't realize we purchased one of those. It's kind of nice. There's a bunch of things that I see that I don't understand. We speak about having more parks. We're overparked right now. We talk about passive parks, taking Gary Purple and making it a passive park, and maybe building a new park for soccer fields, maybe down by the river. So let's cut some more trees down. Maybe we could run the deer out of there. There's so many plans within a bridge going across instead of putting a walkway over here and a push button if you need to cross 20. I don't understand. We're getting way out of control and we're way beyond our means. We still have a $40 million debt. Maybe it isn't 40 million anymore. Maybe we paid some more of that off. Why are we going into more debt? To build this thing down at the Riverlands and to build a bridge across. Is the Riverlands going to be free, Mr. Anderson? I don't know. Looks like Schultz. Yeah.
You know you're my friend, but we talked about not making comments.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to single anyone out. He was making a face, so I was trying to figure out what he was saying.
So this is not intended to be confrontational.
No, it's just
want to do so.
All right. I'll make it brief. We are spending a tremendous amount of money. I don't know how we've got 8 as last reported marshals plus their vehicles. Plus, I'm sure we're going to have a precinct for these marshals and all kinds of different things. We need to roll everything back, put it all on hold. Let's see what this economy is going to do because it's terrible for everyone right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Always appreciate your insight. Is there anybody else? I should wait for somebody stronger. Mr. January, welcome.
Good evening, welcome to all of you. Thank you for taking the time to sit with us. I am going to say I'm disappointed in the lack of participation by the city. Obviously, it's important. Yeah, I've seen on some social media people complaining about property taxes and other things. And frankly, my phrase to them is speak up or shut up. You know, this is the place you need to be. If you have an issue, if you have a concern, that's why these meetings are held. They're held limited. So again, I appreciate that they are held. Obviously, they're required by law, but still, it's good to be here and be able to speak my mind. I'm going to say my position is I would like to see it roll back. Frankly, I'd like to see it to last year's level, or 2023 level. If not that, at least hold it to a level that is no more than the rate of inflation. I think Mr. Rafford said it was 3 point something percent. I think I read somewhere it was going to be after less than 3%. Whatever the number is, I think that ought to be the max. I believe there is a measure that's going to be on the ballot this fall that will essentially require all municipalities to set property tax increases to the prior year's inflation rate. If that passes, then obviously that's going to become a law. We're going to have to do that. I think it's time to let's spend a couple of years. Let's go with what we need, not what we want. If we don't need to make traffic flow improvements at the intersection of Highway 20 and Stanley Street until we get more further development on that, then maybe it makes sense that we don't need to build that pedestrian bridge, if at all, until at least further development warrants that we build that bridge. There's a lot of discussion about a lot of spending out of the river area, including another pedestrian bridge out there. Do we really need those things? I mean, do we need them right now? Some of that stuff I think is really neat. Some of the trails and some of that stuff, but certainly another pedestrian bridge. I don't think we need that now, if ever. I think it's time to say, okay, let's start with bells. Let's give the cities a little bit of a break, okay? And let's hold these property taxes down for a year or so and make use of some of the revenue we've already collected over the last couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. January. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Nick Thompson, 117 Lost Trail in Swan. And if we could get the overhead camera rolling, I would appreciate it to have some black and white. I wish I had a vintage Mustang to get on Highway 20 and roll towards the long one. Sir? I'll wait. And if I had lived here long enough, I would know that I'd be traversing the Northern Harbor. And if I had an issue with a state highway, also being an interstate highway, then I would have voted against Fort Barnes a number of years ago. So, transportation-wise, I just wanted to counter that. But I'm here to talk to you tonight about a budgetary item. It's not really specific to millage rate. It was an incident that occurred about 2,900 linear feet to our west-northwest earlier this summer. It dealt with a trespasser on private property that my wife and I own, which is adjacent north to the legal site. And I'm going to make a football reference. Chris Berman, a great broadcaster, I once heard him describe Randy Moss as wiry strong. My late father would have described this gentleman as pack a lunch. So I watched him. There was really no issues until he stole my wheelbarrow one day. Okay? And so I was incoming at an appointment and saw the game cams going off and got scared and got nervous. And when I got home after lunch, I went to put my blue jeans and steel toes on and go check on our property. But before I did that, I fired off an email to our marshal service. And before I could get my boots on, here comes the wheelbarrow back. Check out the look on his face at the escort of 2 patrol units. And so what could have been an emotional, untrained, scared property owner going to confront a trespasser / presumable petty thief turned into, hey, Mr. Thompson, we found your wheelbarrow, sir. We went on and talked about it. I knew where the guy was staying. As it turned out, the landlord did not know he was living with a roommate that was a tenant. And so maybe this gentleman was only capable of stealing a 10-year-old wheelbarrow, or maybe he was capable of something else. But the wheelbarrow's still there. He hasn't been on game cams, and maybe he's moved on. So, 20 years ago, the policing effort in this town started with plaza security. Mr. Parker was here, I was here, Steve was here. And it was eyes and ears on the ground, boots on the ground. And it's grown to what it is today. And who knows what it'll be in 20 more years. But I'm telling you, I've never been more proud, ever, to have served this city than when I didn't have to go deal with that. And so all I did was send a generic email, and I got a call back. And the gentleman took my information over the phone, my driver's license number, took my police report, and he said, "Sir, what do you want us to do?" And I said, "Well, you guys deal with him as you deem fit." So I did not call 911. And the reality is Gwinnett County has over 1 million people to police, and our precinct, you know, geographically far from our city's core. And our marshal service is not. They're here, downtown, and about. And in light of the horrific recent events, you know, I heard a second ago this figure mentioned, and I just wrote it down, which has CPI dragging on it and numerous other things. But, and Mr. Purple, I apologize, I did not read the budget, and I cannot tell you what the Marshal Service commands, but I'm telling you two things that's wrong with them. They're underfunded and undermarket. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Does anybody else wish to make a comment? Yes, ma'am. Did you could just state your name and address? Thank you.
Sure. Barbara Dotson, 6098 Eagles Rest Trail, Sugarhill, Georgia. Very lovely. I didn't come with prepared remarks. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss this last meeting though. So I'm just here to say that I feel very strongly that it's time for the city to roll back the millage rates. It keeps getting asked and asked. It doesn't happen. I don't understand why. I understand that Gwinnett County is in charge of the values. I get that. I don't need that explained to me. I get it. But what I don't get is why the city keeps capitalizing on that and not taking its citizens into account. And I know you can say take the citizens into account, but not really. It's hurting us. It hurts us badly. It's got to be hurting everybody here. I think that owns property. Gwinnett raised the millage rate last year. The property values went through the roof. Everybody got hit hard. And I know this has happened in the past, but it's been gigantic over the last several years. And with inflation on top of that, we are getting pounded into the ground. And I don't think anybody's listening, or if they do, it's not being heard or doesn't matter. And it needs to matter. And the city, I think when I first moved here a long time ago, 20 plus years ago now, I think that they cared about staying in budget, not borrowing money, and took all of that into account for the citizenry here. And now I feel like the city just wants to keep up with what are the other cities doing? What can we build? How can we get our faces on Instagram with pretty pictures? And I'm not making light of that. I really do feel that way because I think a lot of people that live in this community don't want it to grow into every other city around. We liked, you know, the small town feel. We liked keeping our budgets under control. We liked all that. That's why we're out here. If we wanted the other stuff, we do to cities. So that's all I wanted to say, and I appreciate you giving me the time to speak on it. And I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Right, anybody else?
Amber Chambers, editor on Whitehead Road. As you guys know, I follow you very, very closely. I pull open records requests on a weekly basis. Last week I pulled one. Your city manager flew to San Diego, $500 plane ticket. Okay, you're telling me that you can't cut in your budget. There's a lot of waste of it. There are a lot of things that maybe we could do without. And I understand that your assistant city manager will say, well, these projects are only going to get more expensive as time goes on. That's true. That's maybe why you can do without some of these projects. I don't see people doing the hard work of cutting. And I'm going to say something else that maybe everyone else is scared to say. This government is not supposed to be a jobs program, okay? You were supposed to be providing services for the citizens who live here. That is your exclusive purpose. And I understand that you should treat employees well, but we have also overhired in some areas. When I started watching you in 2019, I think your marketing department was like Marissa Butts. You had one, maybe two people. Now they take up the entire what used to be the art room. You have cubicles in there. I see job ads, and I see that hiring a lot. And I don't see where a marketing department really provides a service to the people of Sugarhill. That's a service for this government. That ends up being a taxpayer funded campaign expense. Okay, and I don't feel like we should be doing videos or promotional things to promote certain elected officials. That's improper. We could really stand to cut there. Okay, we could especially stand to have a hiring moratorium there. I've also seen a lot of hiring in marshals. And I know you want to morph it into a police force. That's been the word on the street. I actually had one of them tell me that he was hoping that it was going in that direction. So that's where you're going with it. It's pretty clear. But we're just doing it like a sneaky kind of a thing. And right now, what I see is a therapy dog, which is sweet. I love Sanford. Don't get me wrong. But that's not public safety, okay? Going to lunch with people at Holbrook, that's not public safety. Going out and getting a stolen wheelbarrow, okay, maybe I'll give you that, but are we paying that much just to collect stolen wheelbarrows? Okay, you need to either cut that or make it clear what you intend to do with it and be out in the open. Just like with everything here. If you're going to waste money, at least have the gumption to just call it what it is. You're wasting money. You guys can cut and you should. And it's time. You did it last year. You didn't do much, but let's face it, you did it because it was an election year. But guess what? So is next year. Get ready.
Thank you, Ms. Chambers.
Mr. Mayor, may I speak once?
Of course.
Thank you, sir. Lee Thompson, 117 Timberwolf Trail. I must say that Mr. Radford's super saver rate reminds me of my minor league baseball days when I sat next to the latrine on the back of the bus. So I don't know anything extravagant about travel. And if we're going to sit here and nitpick the dollar value of public responder responses, how are you going to quantify a wheelbarrow versus a non-incident? How are you going to quantify a presence, which equals no escalation versus the need for de-escalation? So there's no sneaky thing about a police department. It was argued, it was agendaed, it was voted on 20 years ago. And we landed on plaza security and we are where we are today. And in 2, 5, 10 years, we don't know where we'll be. But there's a growing population, there's growing traffic counts, there's growing development, there's a growing need for a presence, which is a deterrent. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. All right, anybody else? All right, we're going to close Mr. January. One thing I want to just ask.
I'm sorry, January.
We're making comments, we're not debating.
I understand. But I think it's important to note that if you're going to have a market department, then let's have them do the things that we should otherwise or could otherwise have when it anyways do. I've come up here several times and talked about traffic issues in my neighborhood, about people speeding, running stop signs, things like that. Why can't we have marshals come down and do those kinds of things? If we're going to pay them, let's pay them to do the job. Again, I agree 100% with this change. But if you want to do stuff, let's do it out in the open. Let's make it apparent. If you feel that strongly about it, then you should have no qualms about doing that. So thank you.
Gotcha. Hey, this is a hearing about military, not a marshals versus a police department. But I appreciate everybody's comments. Is there anything anybody else would like to make public comment? All right, we're going to close public comment. Is there a motion? Motion, Mr. Mayor, set the millage rate at 3.5 mils. I have a motion from Mr. Kirkland to set the millage rate at 8.5 mils. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I have a second from Ms. Avery. Any further discussion before I call the vote? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. All right, all those opposed, like sign. It's 3-2, man. That is the end of our hearing for the day. And we have no need for executive session. Is there a motion to adjourn? No motion to adjourn. All those in favor, raise your right hand. I'll second that. Your turn.